Hmm. Hi everyone. So video is going to be on Vipassana, first of probably at least two. Going over this one's probably just going to be logistics and some overall understanding of what Vipassana is, and then the second one I will probably do about my experience and what I went through, and try to keep it that way. So, as many of you know, I was fortunate enough to take 12 days off, the 2 days traveling included, and go spend 10 days at the American Bodhi Center, which is an hour out of Houston, to go experience a Vipassana retreat. So, what is Vipassana? So, I actually was just looking at the meditation little, flyer that I walked away with. So, instead of reading this to you, and I'm sure this is available on dhamma.org, www.dhamma.org. I want to just talk about, what my experience was. So Vipassana actually means to see things as it really is. And what Vipassana is Buddha, Gautama the Buddha, because there are multiple Buddhas, but Gautama the Buddha rediscovered Vipassana, the technique of Vipassana, 2,500 years ago. And, there were many Buddhas before him. There have been many since. And what he discovered was that, human beings all have suffering, regardless of what your religion is. So this is, although it's, I can't even call it a Buddhist meditation technique because they don't claim to be a Buddhist meditation technique. It's just a universal meditation technique. And it's non-sectarian, so there's really no mention of any religion. Anybody can go there, and it's because suffering is universal. Suffering, whether you're a Hindu suffering or whether you're a Muslim suffering or whether you're Christian, suffering is suffering, right? So what Buddha the Gautama discovered in meditation is that we have our conscious mind and we have our subconscious mind, and we have these deep-seated causes that cause our suffering, and the way they manifest themselves is in the form of physical sensations and vibrations on our entire body. And if you're able to not react to those, eventually they come up and they go away, and those sensations are called sankharas. But what happens is we tend to get into this habit, this pattern of reacting and responding, and not even responding so much, but just mindlessly reacting to these sankharas. So anyways, I'm jumping ahead and I'm going to try to stay on task. So 10 days of silent meditation. It's completely free. It's available literally around the world. You could do this retreat I did it an hour out of Houston. You can do it on the West Coast. You can do it in Australia, India. I obviously would suggest you do it in the West. I loved the facility I was at. It was not owned by Vipassana people themselves, because they don't have a center in Houston yet. So they rent out this place from the American Bodhi Center. And the American Bodhi Center is this beautiful, I think 50 acres plus facility. You can go online and look. And so it is a Buddhist facility. So you've got statues of Buddha all across the ground. It's very Zen. You've got female and male dormitories. The meditation hall was absolutely spectacular with I don't even know how high those ceilings were, gorgeous dark floors. Very, very nice facility. And so it's a silent meditation retreat where you basically, day 0 is when you go check in. You go check in and you turn in your phones. You turn in your books. You turn in, you're told not to bring the stuff to begin with. And then I think 6 o'clock, you've got the orientation and whatnot. And then you've got dinner the first day, but after that, there's no dinner. And I'll get into the diet and that in a second. And then that night, you've got the first meditation where you basically are assigned your spot where you will sit and meditate. And of course, you can always move and find another spot if you want to. But there's no talking. There's no conversing. You practice something called noble silence the minute you start the first meditation that night. Noble silence is this idea that you're basically respecting everyone else's um, process to go within and be alone with their thoughts. So you don't even look at each other. You're discouraged to even look at each other. And the only people that you can actually talk to, and it's not mindless, conversation, chatter, gossip at all. It's the teacher. You can ask questions, and you can also, there are female managers and male managers that are just older students who've come back to volunteer, and they just take care of the logistical aspects of it. So as many of you know, when I actually got to Houston, my bags didn't make it there that night, on my same flight. So that night I needed to borrow a pillow, and I needed to borrow a towel, and I needed to, I was sick, so I wanted halls, and they take care of all the logistical aspects of it. So you can talk to, the minimalist conversation. 10 days, no conversation, but you really are talking in a sense, but not like regular talking. So, but there were people that were very stoic and did not speak and did not cheat. Yours truly could not shut up the entire time. I tried, but it was really hard. I spoke probably, I think, 1% of what I normally do every day. And it was kind of funny because, I would literally talk out loud to myself as I was walking, to the thing. And the first day I was like, okay, this is cool. I'll just go along with the flow and be open to it. And second day I'm like, okay, I guess I'm just going to learn what I'm going to learn. And third day I'm like, oh my God, I really suck at this. And I was laughing, just literally laughing about it. And it was kind of funny. And then you have these sessions with the teachers in like small groups. So between the meditations, they'll call groups out. And then you sit around the teacher, and he individually asks you, questions about your experience. And so it was funny because on one of those days I was like, okay, I'm not going to talk today. And that was the day they called us to the teacher. And I'm like, I'm looking at him almost wanting to going, I'm not supposed to talk, and I really want to observe noble silence. And, it is what it is. I talked. Anyways, so you have, the schedule is you get up there's supposed to be almost 11 hours of meditation a day. Now, the way that works is, I was in a dorm with 6 other women. There were 4 bunk beds. There were 8 of us that could have been there, but there were 6 of us assigned. And the first day that we got there, I actually got to know, being this chatterbox that I am, I was like, hey, Mamanita, what's going on? I'm from Florida. And there were, it's in Texas, so there were people there. A lot of people were from Austin, Dallas, local Texas area. And then there were people from literally all around the world, and all around the U.S. It is run by, Indians. So the way Vipassana happened is that, Buddha discovered it 2,500 years ago, and then 400 or 500 years later, it kind of got lost again. But it was sent to Burma to be basically preserved and passed down from generation to generations. And then it was prophesized that 2,500 years later or something, it would come back to India, which is the birthplace of Vipassana, and it would spread. And so the person who was living in Burma, grew up in Burma, is Goenka. I forget it. I don't think I even know his name. Goenka is the teacher. He passed away 5 years ago, but Vipassana is, he learned it. He went to a training, a retreat just like this, where he learned it from a teacher. And Goenka was an established businessman who was very sick. And I'm not reading any of the comments right now, guys, so sorry. But yes, I'm going to get into the entire schedule and talk about all of that in a minute. But Goenka was very sick and physically, and he'd literally been all around the world trying to, heal himself and get himself better, modern medicine. And they basically told him that he would be stuck taking morphine every day, repeatedly, and then it would just be because he would have to take it. And someone said, why don't you give Vipassana a try? And he did. And, he says he almost ran away the second day, the third day, which is a normal reaction. But he stuck to it. And then he brought it to India to teach his mother, because his mother was getting sick. And so he came to India, I don't know how many years later. And then from India, it just, he said he knew about less than 100 people before he came to India. His parents had shifted from Burma to India. And before he knew it, he had, people calling him back saying, can you teach, my neighbor? Can you teach my mom? Can you teach my this? And next thing you know, he had thousands and thousands of, people coming to learn Vipassana. And of course, how many years later, it's the recording we saw of the discourses was back in 91, which he did in the States, I'm guessing. And he's passed away since, but it's a movement of its own, completely run on donations. I haven't donated yet. There was no expectation to pay a single penny, and they put you up. It's just you have to find your way there and back. So the schedule is that the day starts at 4:30 in the morning. Men and women are separate. The first night we interacted, but even the dining hall, they had put a partition up, so you really just ate. The females, we all had assigned little, spots that we had picked, and you're given your dishes, and we would eat. The men, we had separate routes even on campus, so that we're not crossing paths. You respected that, and so got up the gong, would go off at 4 o'clock, and we would get up and make our way to the meditation hall at 4:30. The first meditation is from 4:30 to 6:30. 6:30 breakfast is served. Breakfast is served every morning at 6:30. The same breakfast every morning at 6:30. So this is what they served us at breakfast, and I think that probably differentiates based on where you are. But the place out of Houston is they gave us like this porridge, almost like an oatmeal, really just, chunky like thing, and then there would be milk, soy milk, and then there was dry cereal, there was fruits, and then this place actually had instant coffee and teas and water. I think that was it. And then they used to make these, I think they were prunes that they would kind of have out there with some apples and cinnamons and whatnot. Not apples, cinnamon sticks and whatnot. So I would basically walk in, get my little bowl of porridge, cereal, not cereal, what is it, oatmeal, and put a little prune in it, put a little bit of milk, a little bit of sugar, and that was my breakfast every morning. So after breakfast, at 6:30, by 7 you're done, because you're not talking to anybody, you're quietly eating, you're not really looking at anyone. 8 o'clock is the first meditation, so then you go back, I would freshen up, and then so there are 3 mandatory group sits, which everyone is expected to attend. And the other times you can actually you could be in your dorm meditating, or you could be in, the meditation hall, which was open all the time. Excuse me. And so 8 o'clock we would make our way to the meditation hall, and we would have our first mandatory meditation from 8 to 9. And, at the end of it, Goenka would come up. It's all recordings. There's an assistant teacher who's gone through intensive training, and he's there representing, but it's all done in the true Goenka voice. So you hear him. There's some sort of bhajans that he was singing, but again, very non-sectarian. There's nothing like religious, that I felt like obligated to do at all. And at the end of hour, there's a quick bathroom break, and you're told to come back, and you come back and you sit. And then so first meditation goes from 8 a.m. Sorry, not 8:30, 8 a.m. to 11 a.m. 11 a.m. is when lunch is served. Lunch is vegetarian. Entire place is vegetarian, and it's the idea. There's precepts. I don't even know if I have the precepts, but the precepts are, you will not kill. So that includes all animals. So you're not eating any animals. Or you won't hurt anyone, you won't speak lies, and that's why the noble silence is enforced, because the minute we open our mouths, even though we don't mean to, we do end up, speaking lies, as innocent as they are. So that's one of the reasons to help you really honor and practice the precepts. There's like 5 of them. You don't talk. And so vegetarian meal, and they had good meals there, actually, very delicious vegetarian meals. I went to another retreat a few years ago, and that's when I realized that I was actually able to be fulfilled eating a vegetarian diet. I've been a meat eater my entire life, being a Muslim. So it was a really strange concept for me to understand and realize that I actually not only was full, but I was fulfilled and content eating a vegetarian diet. Which was really nice. So yeah, great, delicious meals. 11 o'clock, by 11:30, you're really done with the meal. And then meditation recommendation is 1 o'clock, but the group sit is at 2:30. So what I would do is I would just basically, after my, even though it was a vegetarian meal, I felt full, so I would walk around outside in nature. And there were women that all, and men, they literally just walk up and down the lawn, just up and down the lawn. Just people were just dealing with their own stuff. And then I would have my shawl out, so I would literally lay out and stare at the skies. I could write a dissertation on clouds and the different wingspans of birds, and trees, and the grass was different, and all the different many insects and bugs that are in the grass. I mean, it is absolutely beautiful. I came back a little tan. I didn't realize I was, but people are saying, "You look tan," and I'm like, "Oh yeah, because I spent 2 hours every day outside, right at noon, and it was absolutely bliss." And then anyways, 2:30 is the second group sit. From 2:30 to 5 is where you have the meditation. And like I said, usually on the hour, after the first group sit, you take a break, and then you're asked to come back, and then you're supposed to sit, and you go in and out as you want to. There's no compulsion in this place, although I know that India and some other centers are very, very strict, because we had people there who had done it previously and talked about it, and they were like, man, this was a piece of cake. Other centers literally would be like, you need to be sitting and meditating, and you're not allowed to get up, and whatever. 5 o'clock is when dinner's served. Well, there is no dinner. It's actually evening tea. The idea is that you don't eat after 12 noon. So that's why 11 o'clock is lunch. Dinner is, oh gosh, I need to plug in from the back there. I don't know if it will reach. Here, do this real quick. See that. Sorry guys, plug this in from there. Lovely. 20